Have you ever had a passion for something that you knew it was the best thing to do, but you just wished there was someone or something to come along to convince you that it was the right choice? You knew it was, but you're sure glad when something confirms that decision. Many of us have had moments like that in our lives. Here's another one for you, maybe. A friend of mine works in the benefits department for a large Georgia school system. One of their employees stopped by his office to speak to him as he's pretty financially astute. She said she had 24 years in education and wanted to know if she should leave and go work in the corporate world, presumably to make up for something lost by being in education. In hearing that, let's set the record straight. Being a Georgia public educator is among the easiest careers to retire in the top wealthiest percentages of retirees in the United States. Let me prove the point. Let's use the average teacher retirement system retiree benefit payment of $38,000 per year. Now, you all have something here that 84% of the country doesn't have any longer: a defined benefit pension plan, a plan that defines through a formula what your payment will be. Many corporations had these type of plans in the past, but eliminated them because they were expensive and went to 401k plans, but not the education industry. So what does that mean? Well, let's go back to our example. As a certified financial planner, if you came to me and asked, what % of my retirement money should I use to pay out in income? Most financial planners would probably say to pay no more than a 4% distribution. This percentage would be a safe percent to take in case the market goes down. You don't start reducing principal. So, in our example, in order to have enough money guaranteed to pay you $38,000 per year for the rest of your life, which, remember, $38,000 is the teacher retirement system average, you would need a body of money, divide $38,000 by 4%, a body of money equal to $950,000. That is real equivalent dollars to the average American who does not have the kind of plan you have, just from being a Georgia educator. Now, what about the teacher that asked, should she go work for corporate America? Well, let's see if the illusion over there is real. I mean, certainly, with all of that increased money over there in the corporate world, it has to equate to much greater wealth. But does it? Remember, 84% of the United States no longer has a defined benefit pension plan that you have here being an educator. So just to be even, they have to have $950,000 accumulated in their 401k, which is the only company-sponsored retirement plan these employees have. So what does the average 401k balance look like? Let's use one of the most widely recognized financial institutions in the world. According to Vanguard, here are the balances in 401ks by age. Consider that the average corporate 401k balance from ages 55 to 64 is $197,000. And the median, which means half have more and half have less, is $69,000. So our sample retired educator receiving $38,000 per year with an equivalent real money bucket of near $1 million is looking pretty rich, I'd say. Now, wait, Dale. You're saying that I, as a future retired Georgia educator, could have almost 5 times the wealth of the average corporate retiree? Yep. And that average corporate balance of $197,000 includes the super wealthy CEO balances. Reality is more like the $69,000 amount, of which you are almost 14 times that. So, when you're ready to retire, here's what happens. you get your little red radio wagon and you back that little red radio wagon up to that board office and you tell them to put your $1 million in your little red radio wagon. And then you pull your little red radio wagon away from that board office with $1 million in it. And this is the only plan they have. And this is just to be even with you as an educator. That little red radio wagon doesn't look too bad now, does it? It also doesn't factor in what both examples could be saving extra in personal investments. A school's similar type plan to a 401k is a 403b. So if you've been putting money aside in a 403b, which you all should, that is all over and above this comparison. It makes the difference even greater. And remember, if you started at 23, you would be retiring at 53. Look at these 401k balances there versus your million. Also, look at these other advantages. And remember, most of America works for small companies, not Fortune 500 companies. In education, you can keep your health insurance after retirement. In a corporate world, certainly in small companies, there's no health insurance guarantee. You have a state subsidy on your retiree health insurance costs. Even if it's available in the corporate world, it could change after retirement. You get a 3% cost of living adjustment raise to your retirement check. You get a raise every year on your retirement income. In the corporate world, nope. Usually, school systems have lesser benefit plan costs, certainly than small companies. In education, you may have a 2-month summer break plus normal holidays. In the corporate world, you have your normal vacation days plus those holidays. In education, you may also get those 2 weeks at Christmas, Thanksgiving break, spring break, maybe some other mid-year breaks. In the corporate world, again, you get those vacation days. Let me say this. In education, you have the demands of class. Let me say, they are real and they are hard. In the corporate world, you also have the demands of production and profitability, and those are real. In education, tenure can be a protection for the majority of you. In the corporate world, you have zero tenure protection. In education, you have the stability of your employer. In most counties, the school system is the largest and most stable employer in a county. In corporations, you have layoffs, mergers, plant closures. You may be moved to a new location. And in education, you literally can shape the future. In the corporate world, maybe not. Now, you can imagine what the lady felt like as she left my friend's office hearing that she is already among the wealthiest retirees in the country. And all from doing what she started out loving to do. You know, it's amazing what confirmation of purpose can do for our spirit. I want to encourage you. This thing you have, it's special. It's real. And for what you do, it will reward you like no other place will reward you. So, when you see a little red radio wagon in the future, smile and know that you have served a great purpose. And that little red radio wagon will forever be a part of your story. Thank you, and go be great. Let's go.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that video from Dale Alexander of Alexander & Co. It really shows how your pension benefit will benefit you in your retirement for the rest of your lifetime. And we're going to dig into that as well today. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe here and turn on your notification bell so that you can get notifications whenever we go live like this. And if you know of anybody and your coworkers or anybody that might be assisting you in your retirement, whether that's a financial advisor or a friend, tell them to join us today. We're live and we're here to answer questions. So I'm joined by my colleagues here in the communications division, and they'll be in the chat. So drop your questions as we go throughout the presentation, and some of these questions will be answered throughout as well. So make sure that, again, you like and subscribe, turn on that notification bell, drop your questions in the chat, and we're about to go ahead and get started. So this presentation today is titled STAR, or Start Thinking About Retirement. And that's why you're here today. So I don't have to tell you to start thinking about your retirement. You're doing that already. That's why you're here for this presentation. And you're trying to figure out, okay, I have this benefit. What does it mean for me? How is it going to benefit me and my family? Now, most of you, and maybe some of you are not, are probably close to retirement eligibility. So let's do a little participation here. If you are within 5 years of retirement eligibility, go ahead and drop a 5 in the chat. I want to see just how many people are within 5. And if you are within 1 year of retirement eligibility, go ahead and drop a 1. Now, for those of you who wanted to retire yesterday, type in yesterday, and I see that as well. So maybe, just maybe, something that you hear today might get you to retirement eligibility, and you might already be there and not even know it. So hopefully we give you some gems today that you can take away, and you'll have some call to actions as well. And so we want to arm you with the information that you need to be adequately prepared for your retirement benefit. All right. And also, I like to see where people are joining us from. Georgia is a big state. So if you want to share which system you're with, go ahead and drop that as well. So we appreciate you taking time out your schedule to do this. We know how important your job is, but this is a very important part of your future. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So today we're going to talk about the options that are available to you, your creditable service, how do you get up to retirement eligibility, and some issues that will impact or may impact your beneficiaries. So your TRS benefit, what is that? Your TRS benefit is a defined benefit plan. So you're not paying into it like a 401k or an IRA that fluctuates with value with the market. It's a guaranteed benefit that's not tied to any market performance. And those words I know are very comforting in a time like this, where there's so much uncertainty out there that you may see in the news, that you might see on CNBC or Fox Business. There's just a lot of things that are going on, but your TRS benefit is not tied to any market performance. It is tied to a formula that we use to guarantee your lifetime income. And it's also backed by the full faith of the state of Georgia. So you have this benefit that is insured and guaranteed to you for the rest of your lifetime. So we are going to talk about the retirement plans and that formula specifically of how you get up to your retirement eligibility. So what we do is we take your years of creditable service, that's years that you work for, plus sick leave and service purchases, which we'll talk about later. We multiply all your years of service by 2%, and we take that percentage and we multiply that by your high average salary, which is your highest 2 consecutive years of salary, wherever that falls in your career. So that may not be your last 2 years. For a lot of people, it will be your last 2 years, but it could be 5 years ago. So let's say you did summer school, or you had some type of supplement that was added to your retirement benefit. You may have coached that year and decided to stop doing that as you got closer towards the end of your career. Well, your highest 2 consecutive years of salary is what we're going to use towards your retirement benefit. So we multiply all that together to get your basic benefit under the max plan. And we'll talk about your other options that you have as well. Now, you can pay into the plan, or you can contribute up to 40 years of service. So you can get up to 80% of your high average salary for the rest of your lifetime. And again, that is a guaranteed benefit. So that's something that you can really hang your hat on, just knowing that you have this retirement benefit that's going to be there for you for the rest of your lifetime. Now, currently, you're paying into the plan before any taxes come out. So when you take that in your retirement, you're going to be paying taxes at that time. And that would be your federal and state income taxes. Those state income taxes are going to be dependent on where you live in your retirement. So if you're here in Georgia, for example, then you'll be paying the Georgia state taxes based on your age and your income. Now, in the state of Georgia, there are some tax breaks that are available to you. So at age 62, you're eligible for a tax break of up to $35,000 on your state income taxes, and that number goes up to $65,000 at age 65. So that will reduce your taxable liability as far as your state income taxes. And of course, your other income is taken into account as well. Now, your federal state income taxes, you pay those as usual. And for those of you that are eligible for the state health benefit plan insurance, then that can be deducted from your TRS benefit as well. For border regions, they have a different arrangement. So you'll need to talk to that provider specifically about how that is deducted in your retirement. But those are the three things that are taken out of your retirement benefit: the state health benefit plan insurance and your federal and state income taxes. All right. So how do you get to retirement eligibility, and what are the options that you have? Well, there's three different types of retirements. One is a service retirement. Some people will call it a normal retirement. And a service retirement just means that you are retiring without any penalty, no reduction to your retirement benefit. And you can reach that in one of two ways. That's with 30 years of creditable service at any age, or if you have at least 10 years of service with 60 years of age. Now, the formula still applies. So if you have 30 years of service, then that's 60% of your income that's guaranteed. If you're doing the 10 years of service with 60 years of age, then that would be 20%. If you're at 25 years, 50%, so on and so forth. So your formula, those years of service will still count in your retirement when it comes to this service retirement. Now, we also have a disability retirement. So if you happen to become disabled and cannot perform your job duties, then you can apply for a TRS disability retirement. And it does not have that age requirement, but you do have to have the 10 years of creditable service in order to apply for that type of retirement. So if that is something that you may need to consider, definitely reach out to us. Go to our website at trsga.com and use our contact us form to make sure that you can get in touch with a disability counselor and we can talk to you about that process. And this last type of retirement option that we have for retirement is an early service retirement. So if you have at least 25 years of service at any age, so you're under age 60, if you're over age 60, then you can apply for retirement. That will be a service retirement, so no reduction. But if you're under age 60 with at least 25 years of service, you can apply for retirement. However, there is a reduction. So there's a monetary reduction to your retirement benefit. And basically that reduction is 7% for each year or partial year under 30 years of service. Or we will look at your age. So it could be 7% based on the number of years you're away from age 60. And we will take a look at those two and see which one will provide the lesser penalty for you, and that will be applied. But it is something to consider. So before you make this decision, it is advisable to make sure that you get in touch with us to see what the difference will be. Now, you can do that in several ways. One is going online and doing a benefit estimate, and you can check the difference right in your TRS account. So you don't have to reach out to us. You can do that on your own, or you can request a benefit estimate through a counseling session, and you can see the difference. But you definitely want to make sure you know what those numbers are. And another thing that you may be leaving on the table are your COLAs, or your cost of living adjustments, if you decide to retire early. So you're not eligible for COLAs or cost of living adjustments until you would have either reached 30 years of service or 60 years of age. And then you're put into the rotation to be considered for a cost of living adjustment. So this is an important decision. Some people do make the decision to retire early, and that could be for a number of reasons. You may have a job offer out of state. You may have a totally another career in state. And sometimes people are just like, you know what, Winston, I'm just ready to go. Get me on out of here. How can I go on and get out of here today? And that might be it for you. For some, it's time, and everybody knows when it's time. So those are your options, and this information is on our website. And also, I didn't mention in the beginning, this will be recorded. This is being recorded as we speak, so it'll be available to you to review after the presentation. Now, the different options that you have, these options you will select at the time that you put your retirement application in. So it's not something that you necessarily have to be too concerned about while you're working, but it is good to know which one of these options may be best for you and your loved ones. So we have these non-survivorship options and we have the survivorship options. So the first two, the ones that are on the left side of the screen, the Plan A maximum and the Plan B option 1, those two are your non-survivorship options. So these will guarantee you, the member, a lifetime benefit. So when you retire, it's a lifetime benefit to you, but for your beneficiaries, it is not a lifetime guaranteed benefit. In those two plans, they would get a one-time lump sum payment of whatever is left in your TRS account, your contributions and interest at the time that you pass. And there will be a point where there's nothing in those accounts to pass on. And we'll dig into those plans in just a little bit. And then on the right side of the screen, you have the other options. The last 5 options are our survivorship options, which will guarantee you a lifetime income. And at the time that you pass, you're giving a lifetime income to your designated beneficiary. And we'll talk about all of those in just a minute as well. So before we talk about the plans, just want to talk about your contributions and interest. You may have noticed, some of you may have not noticed, that you pay 6% currently towards your TRS retirement benefit. So that automatically comes out of your TRS check or your paycheck every time you get paid, and it comes to TRS to your account. So you have an account that's your contributions and your interest, and that is available to you, say if you were to terminate or when you retire. So that is your account or your money bucket. And then there's a separate account, which is a general account that has your employer contributions, investment income, and is what's used to help pay you out for the rest of your lifetime. Now, this is a very, very simple way to describe how your TRS retirement benefit is funded. There's a lot of moving parts to it, but hopefully this visual kind of gives you an idea of how to conceptualize what's yours versus what's the general TRS fund. So now we're going to dig into the non-survivorship options. And again, these are the plans that guarantee you a lifetime income, but not your surviving beneficiaries. The max plan, the Plan A max, will give you the most of any one of the options. It's guaranteed to you for the rest of your lifetime. For your beneficiaries, again, is a one-time lump sum payment of what's left over in your account. And typically in about 2 to 4 years after you retire, your TRS account is depleted. Your contributions and interest are depleted at that time. Now, that doesn't affect your retirement benefit at all. You still get your check for the rest of your lifetime. But after that period, after there's nothing left in the TRS account, there's nothing to pass on to a surviving beneficiary. The same rule applies for the Plan B option 1. However, you take a reduced amount to stretch out the time that there is some funds left over for your TRS beneficiary. So in the Plan B option 1, it takes about 10 to 14 years to deplete what's in your TRS account. But again, the same rule applies, which is if there's anything left in the TRS account, then your beneficiary will get that in a one-time lump sum payment. But if there's not anything, then there's nothing to pass on. So these two plans are really designed with you as the retiree in mind to maximize the amount of income that's coming to you, and is not designed for those surviving beneficiaries. Now, with the rest of the options 2 through 4, Plan B options 2 through 4, you want to think of a seesaw or a teeter-totter, depending on where you originate from in the States. So in these last options, the options 2 through 4, you're giving up some of your retirement benefit to guarantee a lifetime income to somebody else. So the more you're guaranteed to someone else, the more of a reduction you take. And the lesser of amount that you guarantee to somebody, then the lesser reduction you take. And this will make a little more sense as we talk about these options. So the first ones that we're going to talk about are the option 2 and the option 3. So these plans, you are taking a reduction to guarantee a lifetime income. With the option 2, you are guaranteeing your primary beneficiaries the same income in your retirement. If you have one primary beneficiary, it's the same amount, but you can split that amongst several beneficiaries. So after you pass, they would get 100% of your benefit that goes to your beneficiaries. And again, you can have multiple beneficiaries. The same is the case with the option 3. In that plan, you're guaranteeing your beneficiary 1/2 of your benefit. So in that case, your reduction is not going to be as much as the option 2 because you are guaranteeing a lesser amount to your beneficiaries. And in that plan, the option 3, you can have multiple beneficiaries as well. So I've met with a lot of members across the state over the years in one-on-one sessions, and they have tried to make decisions on, okay, do I leave this to my spouse, for example, or do I leave this to my kids, or a combination of them all? And sometimes people will say, well, Winston, what should I do? Should I leave it to my kids, and should I split it up evenly? And some people will even say, well, you know what, I like this kid a little bit more than the other one, so I'm going to give this one 75% and the other one 25%. It's your prerogative of how you want to split that up. I don't know if you want to keep the peace or if that matters to you or not. However, that is an option that you have. You can split that up in as many ways as you want, and those percentages in as many ways as you want. And we're going to talk about how your choices affect your beneficiaries and your benefit a little later as well. Now, with the options 2 pop up and the options 3 pop up, in these plans, you can only have one primary beneficiary. In the option 2 pop up, you're guaranteeing the same lifetime income if you pass first. In the option 3 pop up, you're guaranteeing 1/2 if you happen to pass first. But in both of those options, if your beneficiary passes before you pass, then in that case, your benefit will pop up or go back to the max plan amount. So you will receive an increase in your benefit in either the option 2 pop up or the option 3 pop up if your beneficiary happens to pass before you do. But again, if it's the other way around, with the option 2 pop up, you're guaranteeing the same. And in the option 3 pop up, you're guaranteeing 1/2. And in both of those plans, you can only have one primary beneficiary. And then there's one other option, which is the option 4. In this plan, you can decide. So you can tell us how much you want to guarantee to your surviving beneficiary. And just like those other plans, the more you guarantee to a survivor, then the more of a reduction that you're taking in your retirement. So you can give us a dollar amount or a percentage. And sometimes people would do this because there's a fixed debt, or there's a fixed bill, or something that they are aware of that they want to make sure that's covered for somebody that's dependent on them financially. For example, that might be the mortgage. So somebody might say, okay, I know what my mortgage is. If I happen to pass, I want to make sure that my spouse can pay the mortgage every month, and I'm going to leave that amount. Or it might be for the health insurance or something else. So this is one that you can have a little more flexibility with. Now, the reductions that you take on any one of the survivorship options, so options 2 through 4, with those options, the younger the beneficiary is, the more of a reduction that you're going to take. So yes, you can leave your children or grandchildren, for that matter, on as beneficiaries, primary beneficiaries, but we are going to take into account their ages. So the younger they are, the more reduction that you're going to take in your retirement. And again, going back to my counseling sessions, I've sat with people and they may have had their spouse on as the primary beneficiary, and they ask for a different scenario, and they'll say, Winston, let me see what it looks like to have my kids on there as opposed to my spouse. And I'll run the calculations and I'll show them the benefit. And sometimes when they see the reductions, they say, you know what, Winston, those kids, they'll be all right. I already took care of them. So as you're planning your retirement, you want to make sure that you're taking a look at this. And if you need to guarantee something to your surviving beneficiaries, not only look at this, but you want to look at your life insurance, other savings accounts and investments. You may have other assets that you can pass along as well. So this is just a piece of the puzzle. You want to look at everything, and your TRS benefit may not be the best place to leave the benefit, but for some, it could be the best place. I've met another member who is a teacher, and her mom was a teacher. Her mom passed and guaranteed her the lifetime benefit. And she said, you know, this benefit pays my mortgage every month. So what a great benefit to pass on to a child, to guarantee something like that for their lifetime. But you need to look at your individual situation and make sure that you aren't harming yourself to guarantee a benefit to somebody else. So those are the type of things that once you get your numbers from us, is definitely recommended to speak with a financial advisor so that you can see how this will impact your overall picture. Now, I'm going to go back to the state health benefit plan again, and this is specifically for state health benefit plan coverage. So with these options, you can continue to carry your spouse and your dependents into your retirement as beneficiaries on the state health benefit plan. So they can stay on that plan with you even after you pass. Now, for your spouse, with the Plan A Max and the Plan B option 1, if you pass first, your spouse can keep that healthcare coverage, but there's no lifetime income. So there's no monthly benefit to that spouse. In that case, they will have to arrange with State Health to make a payment directly to them. Now, with the options 2 through 4, if there's enough, and if there's a certain amount, there's a threshold, but if there's enough to cover the State Health Benefit Plan premium for that spouse, if you happen to pass first, your spouse can keep that coverage and it'll automatically come out of the TRS benefit. One more rule surrounding the health care in retirement, and these are the current rules, and of course you want to review this annually because the state health rules can change in the future. But for now, if you happen to pass first with the Plan A Max, Plan B option 1, those first 2 plans, the non-survivorship options, you pass first, your spouse can keep the coverage. If they remarry, they'll lose the coverage. Options 2 through 4, if you happen to pass first and your spouse is getting the lifetime income and the health insurance and they find a new honey, then they can keep the health care. So sometimes people say, you know what, I'm not letting them know about that part of it. But those are the rules for now. And again, they are subject to change. So when it's time for you to retire, you want to make sure that you are in tune with what's going on with the state health benefit plan and what's available to you. One last thing about state health. Depending on when you retire and how many years of service that you have when you retire, you may be under a new or old subsidy option. And so you definitely want to make sure that you're aware of what you're going to be paying when you retire. And also, people ask us, as far as the plans are concerned, people will say, you know, what's the best plan? What is the plan that most people choose? Majority of our members choose the max plan, and that surprises a lot of people, but most people maximize the most that they can get in their retirement. And that's for several reasons. One reason may be that 2 TRS pensioners are married to each other, so they are just going to get the most that they can get. There are single people that retire and they want to make sure they get the most. And for those that have dependents, they might not be financial dependents, so they don't want to take away from their benefit to make sure that they have the type of lifestyle that they want in their retirements. So we have some scenarios here for you to think about just to see which plan might be the best for you. So we have this first option, our first scenario. Mary has no dependents and no one depends on her income. So drop in the chat, which one of these options do you think would be the best option for Mary? So for Mary, the Plan A Max might be the best option for her. Nobody depends on her financially. She doesn't have to make sure that somebody else is covered. So probably would make the most sense for her to take the Max plan. All right. Now, number 2, Sue has a spouse that has no savings, will not receive a pension or Social Security benefits, and who also has lousy lotto luck. So which plan might be the best plan for Sue and Sue's spouse? So some people might say option 2, guarantee their spouse a lifetime income. Some people are saying Plan A Max. Some people say you're still on your own. I got my retirement, you're on your own, Buster. So some people will say, hey, it's my retirement, you have yours, or I want to make sure that I take care of my beneficiary. It's totally up to you how you want to go about that. And the last one, Tom has a spouse who will be receiving a pension and Social Security, but the amount is $500 per month short of meeting her income replacement needs if Tom dies first. Now for Tom might say, you know what? I know exactly what that amount is, that shortfall. I am going to guarantee that $500 per month, or I'm going to give just a little bit more just in case that need increases a bit. And so there's different ways to look at which option is the best for you. Again, you want to make sure that you know what your numbers are. So get a benefit estimate by logging into your account. If you are beyond 5 years away from retirement, you can't use the benefit estimate, but there is a pension calculator, so you can use that as well. So make sure you know what your numbers are, speak with your financial advisors, and give a lot of thought to these options before you choose your plan. Now, when you retire, there is another option that's available to you, and this is only for a service retirement. So this does not apply for an early retirement or for a disability retirement, but there's something that's called the PLOP, or the partial lump sum option plan. And with this plan, you can take a lump sum when you retire, anywhere from 1 month up to 36 months or 3 years of your retirement benefit in a lump sum, along with your monthly income. So you'll still get your monthly income, but if you take any monies up front with a plop, then your monthly income will be reduced. And that is a permanent reduction. So if you decide to take a plop, there's a couple of ways that you can take it. You can take it directly to you. So this will come to your account in a direct deposit, or you can roll that over into a qualified retirement plan, such as an IRA or 401k or the like. Now, the benefit or the possible benefit for you to rolling that over would be that you defer those taxes to a later date. For somebody that takes it directly into their account, then that might be a taxable event for them, and therefore they have to pay taxes in that tax year. So this is something to be aware of. Definitely you want to speak to a tax advisor about that to make sure that you are aware of any tax implications, because plop does count as income on top of your other income for that year. So you want to make sure that you know how this will affect you in your retirement. Now, the cost of living adjustments, or the COLAs, this is something that's baked into the plan. And this is something that you could get twice a year. It's 1.5% that could be awarded in January or July. And I'm saying could because it is tied to the CPI or the Consumer Price Index. So we would basically take a look at the CPI or the Consumer Price Index at the time that you retire, and every 6 months or so after you retire, to determine if you're eligible for a cost of living adjustment or not. Now, when you retire does affect when you're eligible to receive your first one. So if you retire anywhere from January to June, then you're eligible the following January. If you retire anywhere from July through December, then you're eligible the following July. Now, I wouldn't base my sole decision on this, trying to determine when you're going to retire. This could be part of it, but you want to make sure that you are maximizing your benefit from the formula standpoint. But sometimes people will adjust their retirement date based on this, but I wouldn't necessarily say that that would be the thing that you need to do. If you happen to retire June 1, for example, and that's when you plan to retire, then again, January would be when you're eligible for your first cost of living adjustment. Now, what we're going to do now is take a look at a benefit estimate. So this is one of the benefits of seeing us one-on-one. So you have several ways that you can get a counseling session, and that's in the Atlanta office, that's in the Macon office. And we also have outreach where we come to either your system or a system near you. But it's definitely a benefit to get your numbers so that you know what they are. So we're going to look at a member that is planning to retire in June of 2025. Their high average salary, so their monthly salary from 2023 to 2025 is $5,833.33. And they will have 30 years of service when they retire. So they are, as soon as they can reach their 30 years, they're going to go ahead and pull the trigger. Now, for this member, we're going to multiply that 30 years by the 2%, and that's 60% by the high average salary. And that's how we got $3,500 under the max benefit. This is the top part of what a benefit estimate looks like. So this is the top of the page, and the same information is represented there. You have the salary, date, and range. You also see the plop amount. So for this member, and it's going to be different for everybody, it's between $4,000 and $126,000, and they have a total of 30 years of service. Now, one thing that you'll notice is the additional service. They have sick leave. So this member actually only worked 28 years and 6 months, and they use a year and 3 months of sick leave to get up to the 30 years of service. So we're going to talk about how your sick leave can get you to retirement dates at an earlier time. Now, at the bottom of the page, you'll see what you will get as a member and what your beneficiaries are entitled to. So again, the Plan A Max and the Plan B Option 1, those are your non-survivorship options. So you can see next to member under Plan A Max and Plan B Option 1, a dollar amount. That is what's available to the member. For the primary beneficiary under Plan A Max and Plan B Option 1, there's no dollar amounts there because there's no lifetime income. It's only the lump sum. With the options 2 and 2B and 2B pop up, you'll see the amount that's available to the member and for the beneficiary. So these are 100% options. Plan B Option 3 and 3 pop up, you'll see the 50% options. So those are a little bit more for the member because it's one half for the beneficiary. And in our example for option 4, this member decided to leave $500 for their beneficiary, and you can see the reduction that it makes. Now, these numbers are going to be different for everybody based on your age and your beneficiary's age when you retire. So you shouldn't necessarily look at this and try to determine the percentages as far as the differences. These will be calculated at the time that you retire based on your age and your beneficiary's age. This is also a gross amount. So this is before those taxes and insurance will come out. So you wanted to be aware of that as well. Now, in the middle, you'll see the plot reduction per thousand. So for the Plan A Max, for example, if this member decided that they wanted to take $10,000 upfront, we'll multiply 10 by $6.57. So there's going to be a $65.70 reduction from that max plan benefit, but that is a lifetime reduction. So there could be a point in retirement that the member could see more in a monthly reduction over the course of their lifetime than that $10,000 amount. So that's something that you want to be aware of. Whatever you decide to use the plot for, just make sure for you that it's worth it. If it's a reinvestment, you want to make sure that that investment pays out more than what you're taking here. So that's something to consider. I've heard a number of different reasons why people will take out a plot. One guy was a home builder. So he said, I'm going to take this money and I can build a home and this will pay dividends in the long run as an investment. And I said, wow, that's pretty cool. I've heard people talked about starting businesses. One lady said she was going to Jamaica. And so I said, do you think that it's a good idea to take this money and pay for Jamaica for the rest of your lifetime? Is it worth it to you? She said, yes. So for you need to determine what's worth it to you or not. Personally, this is Winston speaking. I wouldn't necessarily pay for Jamaica for the rest of my lifetime. It's a beautiful place, very, very beautiful place. I wouldn't necessarily finance my vacation for life, but it's your prerogative what you want to do with your plot. But just from a financial standpoint, you want to make sure, again, whatever return that you're getting, if it's a reinvestment, then it's worth it. And there could be other reasons. There have been medical reasons. People said they need to take it, certain types of emergencies. So it's totally up to you what it's used for. But it's not something that you have to do. And if you don't have to, then it will give you more in your retirement, obviously. So you want to definitely start thinking about which option is best for you and your family. Go to our website and log into your account to generate a benefit estimate on your own. And to, again, see us one-on-one in a counseling session, you can do that either virtually or in person. So for a lot of you, it's kind of difficult to break away and take time off. And, I know people love coming to Atlanta and experience all this wonderful traffic that we have here. So if that's your thing, if you like coming this way, hey, we would love to have you. Our doors are open. But we do have that office in Macon. You schedule those by going to your account and logging in and seeing where we are. We have those statewide events as well. So we do these events across the year, across the state, everywhere in Georgia. And Georgia has all different types of terrain, and we tread through all of them. So yes, there may be something that's closer to you, but definitely before you retire, we recommend at least meeting with us in some format, whether that's on the phone, via WebEx or Zoom, or if it's in person. We want to make sure that you're getting the information from us. And speaking about that, one thing that I want to bring to everyone's attention is you may be receiving solicitations from financial services companies that might mirror TRS in one fashion or another, or they may be using our materials. Only things that come from trsga.com are from TRS. So there are some that I've seen that have very similar names. It might say Teachers Retirement. It might say Teacher Dash Retirement, something similar. And they'll say reviewing your TRS of GA retirement pension. These are independent companies. So just if you have any confusion, if you've seen any emails like that or solicitations like that, just know that only solicitations from trsga.com come from TRS. And as far as those sessions goes, it's the same thing. You'll get an email confirmation directly from us. And if you have any questions about that, you definitely can go to our website. There's a link. It's fraud prevention, trsga.com/fraud-prevention. You can just type that when you go to our website, and you can see where you can find information about that specifically. All right, so now we're going to transition over into creditable service. So getting up to your retirement benefit. The first type of service we're going to talk about is your membership service. Your membership service is what you work for. This is the service that every time that you go in, if you're working full time, you're getting credit towards TRS. And we award your service in 1 month increments. So for every month, if you're working half-time or more, you're getting at least 1 month, where you're getting 1 month for that month. And for TRS, 9 months makes a full year. So once you have 9 months within the fiscal year between July and June, you have your full year of service credit. And you can also apply sick leave towards your retirement benefit. You have to have at least 60 days of sick leave when you retire in order for it to count towards your TRS benefit. But if you do, it will give you additional credit. Now, depending on your contract type, if you work 8 months, there will be 10 days of sick leave credited to you, or that's what you can accrue. 10 months, it's 12.5 days, 11 months, 13.75, and 12 months, 15 days per year. So basically a day and a quarter is what you can earn. If you are in a system that awards at a higher rate, we will adjust that to these maximums when that sick leave is turned into us. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But these are the max amounts that you can accrue towards your retirement benefit. Now, if you are in a system where they may have some days that they can't account for because it might have been, let's say, in the 80s, or there might have been something that happened to the school system. We've actually had cases where board offices have burned down and some records are missing. So in that case, we'll take an average of what you do have on file and give you that average for each year where there's no records on file. So you are not at a loss if the employer doesn't have those records for whatever reason. So we'll take the average of what can be accounted for and we'll apply that. Now, this chart here just shows you how your days of service are converted into creditable service. Again, if you have less than 60 days, that does not apply towards your retirement benefit. In that case, you want to talk to your employer specifically to see if they have any type of incentive program around those type of days if there's nothing left. And you can always donate those days to a sick leave bank as well if they're not going to benefit you. But at 60 days, that's 3 months of creditable service. At 70 days, that's 4 months of creditable service. And after that, every 20 days gives you another month of service. Now, I said 9 months makes a full year. So if you have 9 months or 170 days, then that gives you a full year towards your TRS credit. And at 18 months, that's 2 years, and there's no max on that. So you can use this to actually retire early if you're trying to reach 30 years of service. If you're trying to reach 25 years of service for the early retirement, you can use your sick leave to get you to that mark. However, you can't use your sick leave to vest. So in order to vest, vesting means you're entitled to a retirement benefit. You can't use your sick leave to get to 10 years of service. Only your membership service you work for, a service that you buy can get you to vesting. You cannot make yourself older either. We do get that question as well. So they have asked me before, I'm 59. Can I use my year of sick leave to make me 60? No, I don't think any of us are trying to age ourselves. So you can't use your sick leave in that way, only as credit towards your retirement benefit. And lastly, you can buy service towards your retirement benefit. So you want to think about service that you did in the past, especially public sector work, to see if this may be able to be transferred into your retirement here. And these are service purchases. So you do have to make a purchase towards TRS in order for that to count towards your account. But the most common type is withdrawal service. So that's where you work for a TRS covered employer or ERS covered employer or a PSERS covered employer, and you withdrew that service. This is the most common type of service that we process. So you're basically paying back what you took out plus the interest. Out of state is very common. We have these neighboring states that people come from, and that's a very common one as well. But some others are military service. There's private school service in Georgia that might be higher ed out of state. There's a number of different types that you can apply for. So if you are thinking that, hey, this service might be something that I could transfer to TRS, you can definitely go to our website. Just take a look, just type in service purchases in our search feature that we have there, and it has all the information about the different types of service. The last one that I want to touch on as far as service purchases is airtime. And you can buy up to 3 years of airtime at the time of retirement if you have at least 25 years of service. And you can use that to get you a little closer, and you don't have to work for airtime. So each one of those have a different type of calculation that's tied to it. So for that, definitely go to our website and make sure that you're looking up how we calculate those different types. Now, reasons to buy or not to buy. One is to retire earlier. The other could be to avoid a retirement penalty. Always, it will increase your retirement benefit. But one thing to keep in mind is for most of the service purchases, the price increases each month. So the longer you wait, the higher that purchase could be because of the interest that accumulates on top of it. So it's definitely something that you want to keep in mind. And if you're considering purchasing service, you want to try to do so as soon as possible if you're in a position to do so. And with those service purchases, you can buy 1 year at a time. So let's say you have 5 years, but you can't quite afford to pay for all of them at once. You can buy one at a time or two at a time, or you can buy all of them. So there's different ways to go about it. We do not do any direct debits. So sometimes we get the question, can I sort of finance that over time? So no, you can't buy it that way. But what some people would do once they get their purchase amount, they will start to save that in their 401k. And so they'll save enough. And once they get enough to buy a year, then they'll transfer that over and purchase that year. So definitely, if there's a number that you see and you're like, wow, that's a lot, that's all relative. I would say if that's something that you're trying to pursue, definitely start saving towards that, because it could be the thing that can get you to retire a little bit earlier. Now, some other recommendations that we have are to go ahead and get your sick leave certified for any previous employer. So you wouldn't do this with your current employer because they do that at the time that you retire. But for previous employers, you can have them go ahead and send in your sick leave. That's one thing that you'll do at the time that you retire. So go ahead and get that done early. And if they do that for you, then it'll be already in your TRS account. One less thing to worry about. Again, think about your past work history. See if there are any years that you can buy. If you've already made an inquiry to us to buy some service and you just need an updated cost calculation, just go ahead and get that from us. I always want to make sure that you're evaluating a purchase. Just see what's the cost benefit to say, if you're already vested out of state, does it make sense to transfer that service here into Georgia, or to leave it there and just retire from two different systems? So you want to think about that before making your purchase. And with service purchases, you have to do it prior to your retirement. And if you are in the retirement application process, if you have any outstanding paperwork, that could delay your retirement. So you want to make sure all that's buttoned up before your retirement date. And again, you want to do it as soon as possible. Now, you can actually upload. We have an upload tool on our website. You can log into your TRS account and you can upload documents. So say you have a certain form that you need to send to us that you've gotten filled out. You can upload that to us and we can review that. If there's something that we're requesting for you for your retirement application, you can upload those things and we'll review that and correspond with you thereafter. So definitely use that tool if you need to send us any documents. All right, now we're going to talk about, in our last leg, your beneficiaries. So you have two types of beneficiaries. You have your primary beneficiaries and your secondary beneficiaries. The primary beneficiaries are the ones that we're going to consider when it's time to retire, or when it's time to make a payout, actually. So your primary beneficiaries, they have the first consideration, and your secondary beneficiaries are a contingency. So if you happen to pass and your primaries have passed, and we still need to make a payout, whether that's a lump sum or a lifetime, then your secondaries will come into play. And you want to make sure that this is on file while you're still working as well. So it's very important to make sure that you have information on file. If you happen to pass while you're still working, if you're not vested, so having less than 10 years of service, your primary beneficiaries would receive a one-time lump sum of your CNI or your contributions and interest when you pass, and that's while you're working. If you happen to be vested, so if you have 10 years or more of service, that means you are eligible for a retirement benefit. If you happen to pass while you're working, your primaries would have a choice between option 2, which is the lifetime income, or the contributions and interest, the lump sum. So they'll make that choice. If the primaries, if they aren't here, if they haven't survived, then the secondaries would have that choice. So it's important, again, to make sure that your beneficiaries are on file with us so that they'll have these options and we'll know where to make this payment. In your retirement, if you select options 2 through 4, so your survivorship options, if your beneficiaries pass before you do, then you can change the plan, but not to the max. So with the pop-up plans, you'll automatically go to the max. But let's say you have option 2, for example, your primary beneficiary passes, you can make a change. You can select a new beneficiary, but if you do that, then we will recalculate your benefit. And in many cases, most cases, it will reduce your benefit. So let's say you have your spouse as the primary, your kids as a secondary, your spouse passes, you want to move the kids to the primary place, you can do so, but we're going to calculate that benefit based on the age of those children. If you happen to get a divorce in retirement, you can change that beneficiary and or the plan. Again, we will have to recalculate it based on the new beneficiary that you choose. So those are some things to consider with options 2 through 4. And still just sticking on options 2 through 4, if you have multiple beneficiaries, if any of those beneficiaries passes before the other, then you can't make any changes. So for example, let's say you have 2 primary beneficiaries, you have them split 50-50, one passes, the other one will still get that 50% for the rest of their lifetime. The only time that you can make a change if you have those multiple beneficiaries would be if one of those beneficiaries is a spouse and there's a divorce that occurs, then you can remove the ex-spouse and reallocate the remaining benefit. But again, that benefit will have to be recalculated at that time. Now, as far as the beneficiaries are concerned, we base the payouts based on what you choose. So the information that's on file at the time of your death. So it's very important. I know I've said it at least 3 times already, but very, very important to make sure that you have this information on file. It is okay to designate minor children. You want to make sure that they are listed as a beneficiary and not the guardian, because if the guardian passes before that child, then the benefit stops with that guardian. So it's okay to put a minor child. And if you happen to pass within 30 days of retirement, you want to make sure again, that your beneficiary is on file, but your beneficiary actually would choose. So your beneficiary will choose between the CNI, your contributions and interest, or the option 2. So I want to say it one more time. Go to your TRS account, make sure that your beneficiaries are up to date. I've seen a number of times as well through my counseling sessions that a member will say, I know I've made an update to my account, but in actuality, they made updates during open enrollment. Open enrollment is not tied to your TRS benefit. This is a separate account, so you want to make sure you log into your account with us specifically to make sure that you know what you have on file. So review your beneficiaries, make sure that they're correct and up to date. Make sure that the percentages are where you want them to be if you have multiple. You don't want to make sure that you have the same person listed more than once. And you can choose your estate as well, but your estate is subject to those probate succession laws. So it's only a one-time lump sum payment that goes to your estate. And these changes you can make to your TRS account online. You can scan this code here. If you have your phones or your tablets, you can go ahead and scan this QR code and it'll take you to a landing page that has more information about your beneficiaries, or you can just jot down a note or check the link that's there and take a look at this later. But you definitely want to, again, make sure that you are aware of all the implications surrounding your beneficiaries. So we're pretty much going to wrap it up at this point. If you haven't already, and I'm sure you have, but if you haven't, definitely log into your TRS account, schedule a one-on-one session if you're within the 5-year mark of retirement. Make sure your beneficiaries are up to date. You want to consider hiring a licensed financial planner or an advisor, somebody that can talk to you about your TRS account, your Social Security, if you're expecting that, your savings, your investments, your other assets. You need to put the whole picture into scope so that you know exactly what you're going to get and what type of lifestyle you're planning for in your retirement. As far as your payments for TRS are concerned, that's direct deposited every single month, once a month, on the first business day of the month. And if you haven't already, now we have various forms of social media. We have the YouTube that you're on now, but we're on Facebook. You saw the advertisement for that, but we also have a podcast. And with our podcast, we not only talk about your TRS benefit, but we also talk about things that will supplement your TRS benefit, like those 401ks, like your IRAs, like savings. But not only that, in your retirement, you want to think about your lifestyle and we have a podcast, our most recent one. It features Wes Moss, bestselling author and financial educator, but he talks about what makes a happy retiree. So are you on the path to becoming a happy retiree? And these are some of the things that you may not necessarily think about, like your relationships, your activities, and more. So definitely check that out. There's a QR code that will take you directly to that podcast. I highly recommend sharing that as well to even people that are retired. So if there might be some retirees here, there's some good information in there for you. So get excited. You are almost there. You want to make sure that you are celebrating the fact that you are at this point of your career, but enjoy your career while you're in those last phases of it as well. This is a time like no other. It kind of reminds me of like when I was in college, my last year or so, I was just itching to get out and get on the other side. And then when I got on the other side, I was like, man, I miss some of those college days. So definitely enjoy this process. The retirement is here. TRS is here. So we administer your benefits. We are solid. We make sure that we do that effectively. So you don't have to worry about this part. Enjoy your career. And at this point, I am going to stop and pause and start to look at some questions that you may have. So I'll be looking at the chat here. And for the next 8 minutes up until 2 o'clock, I will answer some of these questions that I see here. But if you haven't already, we have a lot of call to actions here. If you haven't left us a review on Google, please do so. Please let us know if we did a good job today. You can scan this QR code, or you can go to your Google account and look for TRSGA and let us know if we did a good job. Give us some commentary about your presentation, about this presentation today, and just let us know if we did well. So I am going to peruse the chat just a little bit and just see what questions we have. So one was, how do I make an appointment? So you make an appointment by logging into your TRS account. You go to trsga.com, log into your account, and from there, you'll be able to select which office you want to come to, whether that's Atlanta or Macon office, or if it's statewide. And from there, you can choose whether it's going to be a virtual session or in-person session. So that's how you set an appointment. And you have to be within 5 years. For outreach, you have to be within 2 years if you want to come to the Atlanta or the Macon office. So that's how you see someone in person, a counselor in person. All right, let's see what else. Oh, thank you for letting us know how we did. We appreciate the feedback. Okay, let's see. Can the secondary beneficiary be your estate? So yes, you can choose your estate as the secondary beneficiary. So for your primary beneficiary, you can choose a person, and then for the secondary beneficiary, you can choose your estate. And some people will do that while they're still working because they may not have any kids at that point, or their kids may not need the funds. So they'll say, well, I'm concerned about my spouse, and I'll leave my estate as my secondary. So yes, you do have that option. Okay, let's see. Now there was a question about private sector employment. Private sector employment, I'll talk about this in two different ways. One, from the aspect of purchasing service. So with private school in Georgia, if it's accredited, for the most part, you can buy that service towards your TRS benefit. So once you reach 6 years of service here in Georgia under TRS, then you can start to buy service towards private school. So that's your private school. Now, when you retire, you can pursue private sector employment, and that wouldn't impact your TRS benefit. You may have some limitations if you are contracting with a school system through a private employer or as an independent contractor. There might be some restrictions there, but say if it's just you want to work for Caterpillar, for example, then you can work there full time and receive your TRS benefit. Doesn't impact. If it's another school system that's out of state, then you can do that as well. Or if it's a private school in state, then you can do that as well full time. And you also have options to work full time here in Georgia. So I'll just talk about that for just a minute, since we're talking about post-retirement. You do have options to work. So you can come back to work in part-time capacities and full-time capacities with TRS. With part-time options, you can receive your benefit. So this is less than half-time work. So 49% or less, what some people will call it. You can work and still receive your TRS benefit and they won't conflict with each other. For full-time work, there are some cases where you can work full-time and receive your retirement benefit for a TRS covered employer. So one would be under House Bill 385, and that's where you have 30 years or more service in a high needs area that's determined by your local RISA. And for that type of work, you can work full-time and still receive your retirement benefit. There are some cases where you can work as an adjunct more than half-time and still receive your full-time benefit, your TRS benefit. Or let's say if you go to a technical college, if you choose the ERS plan, then you can work full-time and still keep your TRS benefit. Or for Board of Regents, like UGA, for example, if you choose the ORP plan, you can still get your TRS benefit and work full-time. So you have a number of different options. You can go to our website and look at our members guide, and we have a chart that shows where you're retiring from and where you're going and the options that you have. So you have a lot of different options when it comes to retirement. But to sum it up, if it's private sector outside of TRS, for the most part, there's no restrictions on that type of retirement. Somebody asked if you will be able to watch this again. Yes, as soon as this is over, then there will be, YouTube has to do a little processing, but it'll be available for you to review. So if you haven't already, please press the like button. It helps us out. Subscribe to this channel. There's a bunch of other videos that we have as well, talking about the beneficiaries. That Dale Alexander video is there. We have stuff about Social Security and estate planning, and we have more content that we're going to be dropping podcasts. We might do different type of live events. So we are spreading out our branches as far as different types of content that we're going to be doing, and maybe some short form content. So definitely make sure that you are a subscriber. You get a notification when we drop new things. All right. So there was a question about converting hours of sick leave into days. So basically we go by an 8-hour workday. 8 hours would equal 1 day for sick leave if it's represented like that. Now, on your pay stub, you may or may not see all of your days of sick leave towards your retirement. So you may have some days that are forfeited. In that case, if you have forfeited days, you may not see that on your pay stub. However, those days still count towards your TRS benefit. So you don't lose any days because they're forfeited. I've heard a number of people say, you know, if you don't use a certain number of days after you get a certain amount of sick leave, then it's not going to count towards your retirement. That is not true. Forfeited days count towards your TRS benefit. So if you don't have to use your sick leave days, please don't use them. If you have to use them, that's what they're there for. If you have to take it out for emergency or childbirth, then absolutely, that's what your sick leave days are for. If you don't have to take too many mental health days, then this will greatly benefit you when you retire. All right. And as far as the retirement application window, okay, so somebody had a question about that. You can apply for retirement as early as 6 months prior to your retirement date. So that's before your 60th birthday, 6 months before 30 years of service, 6 months before 10 years of service with 10, 6 months before the disability. So 6 months is your window. We recommend no later than 2 months that you have your retirement application in. And that just makes sure that once we have all your paperwork in, then we can go ahead and process everything to make sure that you are paid out on time. If you happen to delay your paperwork, let's say you're going to retire June 1, and we don't get all your stuff in from you until May 30th, then you'll still have a June 1 retirement date. However, you may not receive your first payment until July or August, but it will be back paid. So you won't miss any payments, but it'll delay when you start to receive it. So there's no point in delaying your retirement. Delaying your retirement is not like Social Security, where if you push it off, then you get more. It doesn't work that way. Whatever you retire with is what you start to get. So you want to do it as soon as possible. And if you're depending on the health insurance, you don't want to have any breaks in the coverage there. So it's very important to make sure that you have all your information into us timely. As far as your sick leave credit goes, that will be retroactively paid to you. So we have to verify all of that. That's one of the last things that your employer sends to us. And once we receive all your sick leave, your first check or so won't have that on there, but we'll back pay you for any months that you didn't receive your sick leave credit. So it is at the 2 o'clock mark. We're going to go ahead and start to shut this down. I greatly, greatly appreciate you taking the time out again to make sure that you took some time out to plan for your own retirement. We appreciate these live sessions that we can have with you and to be able to interact with you. But, you know, it's a lot of information that I covered, a lot of stuff that's here. We will repost this. Please share this with your friends. And again, make sure that you are enjoying these years up to your retirement. Again, my name is Winston Buckley, and I thank you so much for your time. You have a nice day.